Hello and welcome to more history stuff. For this video I thought I'd try something different and do a video reaction. This is the first time I've done one of these and I've probably got the technology all wrong. The sound is probably horrible, it'll probably look terrible, sound terrible, but it's only a first attempt, so give me some slack. Just for fun, I thought I would have a look at a clip from Braveheart, everyone's favourite medieval film. It's more or less inevitable that anyone who makes videos about history and the 13th century in particular, and Scotland and England, is going to have to at some point talk about Braveheart. So I thought I'd just get in there and tackle it as quickly as possible. So what I'm going to do is look at part of the one of the battle scenes. This is the Battle of Stirling Bridge. Famously, the filmmakers chose to leave out the bridge, so it's just the Battle of Stirling. This is the first couple of minutes when the evil English send in their cavalry, their heavy horse, to ride down the poor old Scots. So it should, if I've got this right, it should appear just there any minute now. And then I'll talk over it and make pauses and try and make vaguely intelligent comments.
See? Every Scot with a horse is fleeing. Our cavalry will ride them down like grass. Send the horse. Full attack.
Okay, I paused it there because I always thought that one of the great missed opportunities of Braveheart was the commanders of the English army at Stirling, these two. Now, they're entirely fictional. I'm not entirely sure who they're supposed to be. I think one of them is called Lord Bottoms, which is an entirely made-up name and sounds like some Hollywood executive's notion of what an English medieval nobleman should be called. Yeah, Lord Bottoms, that sounds totally English, let's call him that. And as I said, this is a missed opportunity really, because there was a fantastic ready-made villain in the shape of Hugh Cressingham, who was one of the real commanders at the Battle of Stirling Bridge on the English side. And all of the chronicle accounts describe him as this monstrous, hugely obese man, an absolute beast of a man, sweating, money-grubbing, deeply unpleasant. He had done all he could to extract money from the Scots, made himself and the English administration extremely unpopular. And he's actually killed at Stirling Bridge, and Wallace is supposed to have flayed his massive body afterwards and made a belt out of his skin. The Scots absolutely hated him. And you wonder why, in a film like Braveheart, which really seeks to demonise the English as much as possible, why they didn't include somebody like Cressingham, who could have been such a great villain on screen. I suspect the answer is because the people who wrote the film didn't do a terrific amount of research and had probably never even heard of Hugh Cressingham. So there we are, shame. Let's carry it on.
Send the horse. Full attack.
Yeah, so here come the English knights. A couple of things I want to say about this. One of the things I like about Braveheart is the scale of the battle scenes. Filmed in 1995, of course, and they used all extras. There's no CGI, no computer-generated animation at all. They just literally recruited and hired thousands of extras to film the battle scenes in Ireland. And while the battles themselves are hugely inaccurate and nothing like the real battles, it does look good, I have to admit. There's a physicality and an epic scale about it that you don't really get in many modern films of this nature, because if this was filmed now, most of this would be computer generated, and while that can look impressive in a way, you're still always aware, or at least I am, that you're watching something that isn't real, whereas this is all actual humans moving about. So you know, that is one aspect of the film that has aged very well, I think. The other thing to say is that the English knights are all wearing a sort of strange, peculiar orange uniform, which I suppose was meant to make them look like a sort of almost like a military, almost fascistic, organised army, oppressive army coming to fight the ragtag Scots. But in reality, of course, English knights or Scottish knights, or indeed any knights in Europe, would have all worn their own coat of arms and had their own banners and their own retinues, and they wouldn't have looked uniform at all. But that's a minor quibble you have to allow for artistic license. And I must admit, this does look good, this cavalry charge. This is good too, the use of slow motion is very effective. Good camera angles. This scene, this cavalry charge, switching between slow motion and normal time, is very effectively filmed. And when the camera closes in on the Scots, you do get a sense of the sort of the fear and the anticipation of watching these things, these heavy cavalry, these armoured knights coming towards you at full speed. I think that's very well done. I have no issues with the production values of this film. It is extremely well filmed. There are plenty of other issues, but never mind. Let's just watch the clip.
Steady. Hold. 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 Hold.
Okay, so this is where the Scots use their long spears. Okay, as any military historian will tell you, this is not how this worked. The Scots under William Wallace and other Scottish military commanders did not just cut big rough stakes and then snatch them up unexpectedly to impale English cavalry. That's not how this tactic worked. The Scottish spear ring, or the skiltrum as it was called, was a very organised formation. It was a series of concentric circles, one inside the other, of long spears or pikes. And the idea was it formed a sort of impenetrable hedgehog, and no cavalry just couldn't penetrate it. But it was organised beforehand. You couldn't just do it on the spur of the moment, just as the cavalry were about to ride into you. It looks very effective on screen, of course, and to be fair to Braveheart, to the filmmakers, they are trying to show how the Scots invented a new weapon to fend off cavalry. But it didn't work like this. The skiltrum was a very pre-organised tactic. It would be ready before the battle started. And of course, the skiltrums, the spear rings, were not used at the Battle of Stirling, or the Battle of Stirling Bridge as it should be. They were used at the Battle of Falkirk a year later. And at first they were very effective. The English knights couldn't get through this hedge of spears. But the problem with the skiltrum in this era, of course, is that it was stationary. It couldn't move. It's basically a big bunch or hedgehog of spears that has to remain rooted to the spot. and of course that leaves it as a very tempting target for missiles. And at Falkirk and at a series of other battles between the English and the Scots over the medieval and early Tudor era, the Schiltons were quite often exterminated by longbows, artillery, handgun fire. So it was an effective tactic in one way, but not so much in others. Anyway, let's get back to the video and show some English knights being skewered on big long sticks. Yeah, as I said, this all looks great, of course, and it's all very bloody and physical. And you've got the English knights being ripped from their saddles and hacked to death on the ground, lots of fake blood everywhere, lots of prosthetics, all very well filmed, but again, not really giving a true picture of how this worked. Not many English knights actually died while attacking the Schiltron. For instance, at Falkirk, when Wallace did actually use this tactic against Edward I, I think only 2 knights were killed. Lots of horses were killed, but not many knights. It's very difficult to kill a knight. This film gives the impression that it was simply a case of dragging him off his horse and smacking him to death on the ground, but it really wasn't. I'm not sure why, because you think that as soon as their horse was killed, he'd be a sitting duck on the ground, but they weren't really. I mean, they were very heavily armoured. They wore the armour that your sort of average English knight wore would be much more impressive than the weird flimsy stuff they're wearing in this film. And of course, they're all highly trained, expert fighters, and even when knocked off their horses, would probably be more than a match for some angry peasants with axes and spears. There's plenty of chronicle accounts from the medieval era describing armoured knights in action against infantry. And it's quite terrifying, actually. It's like reading about the samurai fighting against farmers. They just hack them to pieces. Because knights were trained to fight from birth, of course, trained to use weapons. And they were perfectly capable of cleaving their way through 5-10 times their number of poor untrained militia. But, you know, I don't want to sound too pedantic, even though I probably do. I'm getting towards the end now.
Send the infantry. My lord, you lead them!
Yes, so that's it for the first part of the battle scene. The English cavalry have been butchered. Stop it there. English cavalry being butchered, slaughtered to a man, silly fools, taken by surprise by Wallace's unexpected pointy stick tactic, clawed off their horses, dragged down to the ground and hacked to death. And then, of course, the next bit is when the English infantry attack. So, depending on the reception to this video, which will probably be quite mixed or indifferent, shall we say, I'll tackle that at another time. So let's see what you all think of this. Thank you.